to admit. So we've about 13 in there. So we'll admit them now and we'll go, will we?
Is Amanda muted? She looks like she's muted here.
Okay, Amanda. You hear me, Amanda?
Yep, I can hear you. I just
you're
muted.
back there now. You were muted for a minute. Okay.
She muted herself.
Did you mute yourself for a second? You did. Okay. I'm just going to mute Facebook. Yeah, that's. Hopefully, we'll sort that echo out. I think it's up there live now, but it's recorded here. And it says it's live on Facebook, and it's recording here now as well. So I'll admit all, and we'll crack on. Okay, people are coming in now. That's cool. So we'll start with a short meditation. And I just want to welcome Amandha Vollmer. Great to have you, Amanda.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So we'll kick off. I'm just going to ask you all to drop into your heart center. Close your eyes for a second.
Hello, sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, mute. Okay. Okay, so drop into your heart center.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, someone coming in there. I've muted you there. Sorry, Kim.
You got it right now. It's just you two.
Okay. So drop into your heart center and we'll take a couple of deep breaths. And just feel your energy really sinking into your body. And feel yourself switching from your mind to your heart. Feel yourself moving into that frequency. And get a sense of moving from thinking to feeling. I'm just going to ask you tonight as you listen to the conversation to kind of keep this space activated. So keep this heart center activated so that you stay in that place of feeling rather than thinking. Let go of judgment, let go of thoughts. Just take away what resonates and let go of the rest. Just allow a little smile now to go off in your heart center. And feel your body completely relaxing. And now as you open your eyes, let that bring a smile to your face. I don't know why that image is coming up there, Brendan. Okay. So you're all welcome to Positive Nights. We're delighted to have Amandha Vollmer. She's a bit of a legend. Canadian Yummy Mummy Emporium. An amazing lady who works with holistic remedies and has been for 1 million years and has a wealth of knowledge, which I'm going to attempt to glean from her tonight. So Amandha, you're very welcome to Positive Nights. Great to have you. How are you doing?
Thank you. Good. Great.
Good.
It's been
Ready to go?
Hi everyone. It's been pretty hectic over here, but we're dealing with it well.
You guys are back in business over there, are you, full time?
Oh yeah, I mean we never stopped. you know, the thing is, if you are protected by frequency, then things don't affect you the same way. So while the world sort of fell apart, not much really changed for me, because I was already homeschooling. I was already working online from home. I live where I work. I don't commute. The only main thing was just getting supplies was becoming difficult. And actually the online sales went more, and it was actually keeping up with the volume was actually more challenging. So I got busier. And when things started to happen, the media coming at me and slandering me and stuff, I had a lot to deal with there, because there's a lot of negativity coming at me. But then it's interesting, it transformed into more support and people who already know what's going on, and attracted more of that type of person. So I actually got better from that, you know. So sometimes when you have an event that you think is terrible or something bad happening, there's always something out of that, something that it's trying to teach you. And then when you pass that test, if you will, then the goods come, right? The rewards come. So if you just continue on with that mindset every time you face a challenge, then you know, you go, what's my lesson here? What's my energy supposed to be like for this? What am I supposed to be clearing of? You know, is this karma? What is this? And then keep going with it, and you'll achieve it, really. So that's what we've done here. So yeah, we've been very, very busy.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah, it's like you're going into the eye of the storm and kind of getting comfortable right in there. That's the feeling I got when all this kind of kicked off, you know. That's where the peace is. That's where, you know, as you say, then you kind of pass the test. But I want to kick off, just there's a few people who know your work, but there's a few who don't. So just to let people know how you got into the whole area of holistic medicine and healing, how it all started for you.
Well, the abridged version is, you know, I was born sensitive to nature and life and everything, and I was already attuned into a lot of different levels of knowledge. And so for me, it was just normal, I guess. It was normal to understand that the trees and the things that grow from the earth were there for us, for our nutrition. I wasn't born into anything that trained me away from that, you know. I was allowed to be who I was. And then I was an artist. I was always creative, and that was where I wanted to head. And then because of my love for animals, I thought I would go into that as a profession, as a veterinarian. But through that process, it actually turned me on to naturopathic medicine, just for the sheer fact that my mentor, he was a naturopath and a veterinarian and an acupuncturist, and he was supporting me through a lot of me trying to figure out the best path for me. And I wanted to take care of animals, which I still do, actually. I still have animal clients now. And I trained in the British Institute of Homeopathy for animals, you know, to use homeopathy on animals, how to make homeopathy. I can make my own. And so I just kept learning and reading, and I was always a seeker. You know, there's some people, they're just seekers. They just want to know everything about this world. That was always how I was. I was always reading books. I was always looking for answers. I was always wondering why I'm here, what I'm here to do. That was always in my mind. And I had quite a few spiritual experiences when I was young as well, that fine-tuned me to this being more of an illusion where I'm at. And when I got rejected by the veterinary college because I dare speak the word holistic to them, oops, I was pretty naive. I just assumed that everybody wants to improve themselves and grow spiritually. And you know, that was my youth, right? Thinking that it's pie in the sky like that. And I realized there's a lot of other agendas. And that's when it started to open me up to other layers of this reality. And so it shocked me, but then it changed my path toward. And so my mentor, Stephen Marston, said, you should just go do naturopathic college. Why don't you just do that? And I said, well, so you mean like treat humans? And yeah, human medicine. I'm like, oh, okay. Like I hadn't even thought to do human medicine really, because I wanted to support those who were innocent. But then I realized that we're innocent too. We need support as well. It's not just those that cannot speak. And I went through the program. So basically, in order for me to qualify for all of this schooling, first I had to change my major in high school, and I had to take all this extra high school because I went from arts and writing, because I was really good at writing. I loved writing, poetry writing, and short stories. And my English teacher was like, you're going to be a great novelist and all this kind of stuff. And then I just switched on a dime and started to study science. And they called me grandma in high school because I had like a year and a half or so extra high school, and I would sit on my spares and they would come to me. I would tutor them for free, right? So I'd always had that mentor part of my being, and how to guide people, how to help people through things from a very young age. And then I went to out west. I chose that school. I got into all my schools, but I chose to leave Ontario, my province, because I really wanted to also travel, see other places, learn, sort of combine it. And so I went to the University of Lethbridge in Alberta, and it was a gorgeous experience. It was a smaller school, so you have more one-on-one with professors. You get to befriend your professors. So it was a really nice family-like experience. And it was really important for my social growth as well as just what I was learning, which was all the heavy sciences. But I also have an undergrad degree in acting because I love acting. I think it's really fun. I'm a Leo. I like to perform. So, that was, I think, what was happening there is I was learning about genetically modified organisms, because that's my degree, agricultural biotechnology. I was doing that stuff in the lab. And I also got to practice public speaking and how to display words to people. And so all of that training was happening unbeknownst to me in some senses, that how I would arrive into that. So it's fascinating how your path can teach you things that you don't even know you're going to use, until later. And then after that, I traveled. I went to India. I went through South America, Central America. Actually, sorry, I didn't make it to South America. I almost made it to South America. I went all the way from Cuba. I went to Cuba, and then I flew over to Mexico, went all the way through Central America. I met these great people, and I had really important experiences. I got shown all the local medicine as I was going through, which really helped me understand that every place has really amazing, unique medicine. I almost am at a stage where I want to go elsewhere to learn more medicine, because I've learned so much here in my area. And then after the traveling and everything, I actually practiced Tibetan Buddhism for 2 years, quite formally and strictly, because I met a Tibetan monk in Edmonton, and I befriended him, and I decided to give away most of my worldly possessions, or have them stored at my parents' place or whatever, and actually lived in a tent, 2 tents. I had a tent for changing, a tent for sleeping, in his backyard, in this Tibetan monk backyard. And he would give me daily teachings and lessons, and I would basically meditate most of the day, do what I had to do. And at the same time, I applied at the University of Alberta and got trained in lab animal sciences. So basically, I was an animal lab tech. And that helped me pay down some of my debts from school and that kind of thing, as I was doing this Buddhist practice. And so that was a certified position as a lab animal tech, working in basically a biocontainment laboratory. So I had to get all, geared up and everything. And it's so ironic, because I teach about the falsities of the germ theory. And here I am, in containment labs, helping the researchers do their experiments on their mice and rats, and mainly rodent models is what I was trained to help with. And it taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about how science is manipulated, how science can be easily skewed to just sort of, if you want a hypothesis, if you want the answer to fit your question, you can sort of massage it, you can affect it. And I learned about the grant system and how these companies could easily just recycle some of their studies so they can keep the grant money flowing. I mean, I saw a lot of corruption. I saw a lot of death. I mean, vivisection is just it's terrible. It's a lot of people who work at that job as a profession were depressed or suicidal. And I brought a lot of my energy healing modalities that I started to learn in and train in about 2005 or so is when I really started. But before that, I was always meditating, and I always had this sense of things, you know, so I could tell them how to do the certain Buddha mantras. Like I would teach them how to do medicine Buddha and how to do this very specific thing as you're gassing these animals to death, because every day you're killing animals like that as your job. It affects your psyche, right? So I would tell them how to do this medicine Buddha mantra to elevate their next lifetime, so they would rise up into a higher rebirth sort of idea. And it helped, whether that's true or not, I can never verify.
Sure.
However, it helped their psyche, you know, in coping with some of the things that they were doing. And a lot of them would leave, you know, burnt out. And then I went to Naturopathic college after that and went through a lot of different layers of awakening. And that's when I really started to train in all kinds of different energy modalities, like Reiki, for example. Usually you start with Reiki, but I didn't. I actually started with something called magnified healing, which was using ascended masters and things. So it was a little more of a different opener for me.
Sure.
And then on and on with that. So that's, I just keep getting training. So I have like a stack of certificates. I was sort of like collecting them, it seemed, for a while. And now I feel comfortable with just researching and not always going after these certificates all the time, you know.
So you've had a really strong kind of spiritual training, if you will, in correlation with all your medicine. So it's there, you know, they really complement each other. So what I want to talk about as well is some of the amazing discoveries you've had along the way. And so what I'd like to give people is, you know, immunity is being talked about at the moment, obviously, and keeping ourselves as strong as we possibly can. And one of the ones that caught my eye was the Dmso, which you've just written a book on. So maybe we'll start there, and maybe you can bring us into another couple of discoveries you had of substances that can really enhance human health along the way. But let's start with that one, and what it is, how you discovered it, and what it's good for.
Well, here's the book. I'll show it. So that's the book, Healing with Dmso. And it's my first published book, and which is pretty exciting because I always wanted to be an author from the very beginning. So it's a really interesting cycle that I've gone through. But what in Naturopathic College we learn a little bit about Dmso. It's mentioned, but it's not promoted, and it's definitely not something that, unless you're interested in a certain type of branching off, like say into sports medicine, you're not going to learn more. So, you know, you learn a lot of remedies, and it's a lot to absorb. You know, there's literally thousands of remedies. So you can't possibly learn them all. You just learn the majority, or the major ones that we've adopted and seen and done some science on and seen what they do. But what I didn't know about Dmso for years after is how much it's been studied. It's incredible how many scientific overwhelmed when I went to start doing the research at just how much it's been investigated. And still it's foreign to most people, and even to naturopaths and even to many holistic practitioners. And most people that I speak to about it, they've never heard of it. And that, to me, that was suspicious. How I came across it the second time was I was just out shopping at one of our holistic stores in Toronto area. And I saw a 90% Dmso solution on the shelf. And I thought, I don't think I've really dabbled with that before. So I just took it because I was curious. That was just it. And I remember I wasn't even going to use it because I didn't know what to use it for myself. I didn't really have, I had some pain, but I was using other things for pain. So I put it on my shelf actually to sell it. I put it in my store with the intention if someone came in, then I had it for them, right? And then I did have someone come in with a very strange infection of mites on his forearms. He was a gardener, and he had been sunburned. The arms were sunburned and susceptible, and he had these mites. And it took me a bit to figure out that that's what was going on, and I gave him a protocol for it. But he kept touching me through the discussion. So I also picked up this mite infection. And it was terribly itchy, to the point where you just scratch yourself till you're bleeding kind of thing. And I tried a bunch of different things to help it. And it was okay, but it wasn't resolving it and not fast enough for my liking. And I thought, I'm going to put this DMSO on me and see what happens, right? And I did. I actually just treated one arm just as a test. And immediately, being so strong of a solution, all my skin went quite red. It was sort of burning and a little bit tingly. And also, of course, I had open skin there. So the open skin was more burning. And I was like, holy, the response of my body to this stuff was so incredible. I was like, okay, you got me hooked now. Something that strong, I gotta figure this out. Mm-hmm. And I just did a deep dive into the research. Basically, I started from the beginning and I read all of the original studies that were done on it. Basically, mostly with Stanley Jacobs' work, because he was the modern forefather, bringing DMSO to the forefront in the 70s. And so I read all of his stuff and I was just hooked. Sometimes I get tunnel vision on something when it seemed too good to be true. I was like, how is this not a thing? How do people not know about this? This is stopping heart attacks and strokes. I mean, what? Like, what stops a heart attack while you're having it? What can stop a stroke mid-stroke? I don't know of anything quite like that. And that got me very focused on it. And then I've been doing YouTube videos. By the way, I've rebranded my name from Yummy Mummy Emporium to Yum Naturals Emporium, because it's just, I can trademark it and so forth. So, so on my channel, which is now Yum Naturals, I just did this video all about DMSO. And I just blasted the research I'd been doing over the last few weeks, that it was just fresh in my mind. And I was so excited about it. And I think because of the combination of it being science-based and enthusiastic, it really took off as a bit of a viral video. And I got a lot of great feedback. I'm so excited. And I started making blends, and being who I am, being creative, I started just mixing around with it. I started to blend it with different herbals. I made eye drops because I learned that it can heal the eye. Everything's about diluting it properly. And once I understood the chemistry of it and I really got that, then I knew from all of my history and training in science, all that chemistry knowledge came back, and I was like, yes, because now I know what it can work with and what it can't work with. And because it can only connect with like low molecular weight substances, it can't do heavy stuff. So I started to play around with what's heavy, what's not, what does it bring through and not. And I could always tell, because I could tell the way I put it on my skin, and I could taste it right away. I could taste the medicine I blended it with right away, because I'm very fine-tuned in my senses. So I played around and I made all these formulations. Right now, I think I have about 14 different DMSO formulations that no one else made. Like, I have looked, the only other formulations I could find as a blend was some of the eye drops, a couple of different companies making DMSO eye drops. That was it. And there's so much potential for it.
It's amazing. I did a little bit of research myself, and I told you I found it in that book by that kind of guy, Trudeau, who was a bit of a character in the 80s, who really stirred it up against Big Pharma. And he was writing about DMSO, and he combined it with something which is not coming to me now. It might be molecular hydrogen. I don't know. I could be wrong there, but something he combined it with that he said it was like incredible for your health. But can you tell us the kind of main things that it's just it's just so good for? You mentioned eyes. What is it like? What are its greatest hits, if you like? What are the greatest hits of DMSO?
I could actually read right from my book. I have like a DMSO activity. So my book is really user-friendly. It's designed for the layperson. It's designed for someone who just is a noob, as my daughter would say, just starting out and doesn't know. And then it takes you through it piece by piece, and then like the history and all of that and why it's been suppressed and blah, blah. And then it goes into its uses, its various uses, the ones that the publisher will let me do. My next books will be privately published for all the fringe stuff that lawyers want to have in my book. And then recipes, actual protocols and actual recipes. And there was no book that I read other than a German book that had practical recipes you can make at home for yourself, right? Because that's my path and purpose, is to help teach you how to do this for yourself so that you're not vulnerable to going into industries that don't have your interests at heart. You know, they either just want to suppress a symptom or sell you on something or put you through a ringer like surgeries and all this stuff and scare you. And, you know, it's about empowerment and you taking the reins of your own health, right? And that's why this book is helpful for that. But some of the main activities are obviously it's antimicrobial, but we don't really, you know, antimicrobial action, basically what it means is if you have something that does that, it's actually taking the role of what the microbial action is instead. So it's helping the repair mechanism, it's helping the dissolution and removal of waste, right? So it'll either be something that supports tissue and removes waste, then you don't need the microbes to do that job because the microbes are there to clean up the garbage. But if you take the garbage out yourself, you don't need the microbes. So antimicrobial is something I like to reframe for people because we are 3 times more microbial cells in our bodies than our own cells. So we are that, and we don't want to kill that. But they change into pathogenic form when our terrain becomes toxic. And so sometimes when somebody's really, really toxic, and severely so to the point where they have all kinds of varying microbes going on, and then at that point, exogenous or external microbes can come in and start feeding too, because basically it's like you're the walking dead, right? Because when you die, the microbes inside of you change to break down the tissue, but then also host microbes can come and break down tissue. That's what it does in the wild, in your body. So when that happens, then you might need something that's antimicrobial while you work on the terrain, while you get strong, while you overcome that. So there are places for antimicrobials. So I just wanted to speak to that before I go into the list. So it does have antimicrobial properties. It's a muscle relaxant. So it tones the muscles. So if it's in a state of stress or strain, so it's a relaxant in that regard. It increases your immune response in the sense of, so what we say when we talk about immune system, what we're really referring to is your lymphatic system, okay? Because that's only one aspect of your entire defense system of your body. Every single orifice, your skin, every organ system, every part of your body has its own defense system, every part. So just saying I have an immune system is misunderstanding the fact that the entire organism, it has its own defenses. And when we talk about immune system, we're actually only referring to one component of that, which is your lymphatic system and your spleen. Okay, so it affects those cells that are produced by bone marrow into your lymphatic chain, and that's white blood cells. So it helps those cells that help to break down damage to work better, to be more efficient, to flow better, to move to the areas properly, and to do that job. It increases the permeability of your tissues so that the cells that need to get to a certain area can travel properly. So membrane permeability is the part of delivery. So say you take a food or a supplement or something, right? That's absorption is step 1. And then you have to have assimilation. So that's bringing it into the blood and connecting with all the molecules that are going to then deliver it. And then you get delivery. And then you have to get the next phase, which is assimilation into wherever it's going to. So there's all of these different stages. So you can that's why people can take stuff and they don't get better. Well, probably they're not absorbing it. And if you fix the gut and it's still not working, then probably you have a metabolism problem and it's not delivering it properly. And then we'll fix that. And if still that doesn't happen, then we have an end user problem, right? Where it's not getting to the host area of need. And then Dmso helps with all levels of that. Helps with absorption, helps with the molecule delivery system through the blood because it reduces the viscosity of the blood. Yeah. And then it gets to the delivery at the end user by cell permeability, which just means it's opening up the cells to allow the stuff to get in. And that's what happens when you put it on your skin as well. It actually opens the barriers up in 3 different ways, which is very unique because to have a transdermal, trans means across, dermal means skin. So to have something come across your skin fully like that a lot of things like certain alcohols are transdermal, and there's a lot. I actually have a list in my book of all different transdermal agents. Some are toxic, most are toxic, and some are not. But not many of them are non-toxic and can traverse the barriers in 3 different ways. So it's quite a unique substance in that regard. And that's why you get the burning and the itching and whatever when you put it on your skin, because it's actually literally opening up your skin to go in. And what's nice about it is even if you do that to the skin repeatedly, even if it dries it out, even if it flakes, because if you put it on too strong, it'll do that. It'll show the skin damage. But even if you did, once you leave it off, it will heal, and it will heal that skin better than it was before. So if you had a scar there or some problem there, people report that that's gone now, right? There are applications of using it very strong, but it's best left for practitioners because you really have to moderate the responses and things because hives can come. So what's the most important thing for understanding Dmso is that you got to dilute it properly and know what you're using it for. And that's why having a book to guide you is going to be helpful so that you don't overdo it. Another thing, and I'm going to write an actual book just about this topic, is the radioprotective or the electromagnetic frequency and radiation protectiveness of Dmso. It's incredible. If you are primed with it, so say you're drinking some of it internally or using it topically or both, and say you have to go get an x-ray or you have to go get an MRI, a CT scan, any of these where they're going to expose you to something that could damage your cells and damage your DNA, or if you're surrounded by electromagnetic fields and all these wireless devices and things that can also damage your DNA, if you're using it on a continual preventative basis, it will prevent the DNA breakages, okay? So that, there's not too many things that I know. I know there's certain foods and things and antioxidants and so forth that you can take that also will do that, like high doses of vitamin C are very radioprotective, for example. But this is quite unique in its radioprotectiveness, and it will also help the cell integrity be quite stable. And you can use it after the fact, but it's not as effective. It will still help, but repairing DNA after the damage is always harder than preventing the damage in the first place. So having that is, and there's a lot of studies, so I was going to just write my own book with protocols about that. It also helps to break, so there's this enzyme in our body, and it breaks down in a neurotransmitter, so a specific neurotransmitter in the body. And Dmso will slow that down so you don't break down that neurotransmitter, so you get better nervous system support by, similar to some drugs will do that, but really strong, where they'll affect your serotonin reuptake and these kinds of things. So it's a little bit of an antidepressant and anxiolytic just from that side note. It's not a strong or overpowering one. It's not going to cause side effects and things. And because of not to use it if you are on any of those types of anxiolytics and depression medications and things, because it'll enhance what you're taking. So, and Dmso as a rule will enhance drugs, drug delivery and drug usage, but also drug detox. But you have to be aware because you don't want to potentiate your drug that you're taking. And so you want to work with someone to get off of those drugs, come down at least lower before you start really using Dmso heavily, because you don't want to take too much medication because that could be a problem, right? So I always suggest if you are going to start coming down on them, even your pharmacist is really good at knowing how to do that. And we'll always work with someone because you don't know how you're reacting, responding, and feeling, right, to do that. And sometimes your doctor's not cooperative, so you have to find another practitioner to do it, but you can. And because drugs are just suppressive. They're not going to heal you. They're just suppressing the symptom, right? And so you want to get to the root cause. You want to know, why do I have that? Why is my body doing this? What's the rationale and reasoning for it? And then working with it. If you start working with Dmso, it's going to start to heal those things. And so you don't want to be on a suppressive drug while you're taking a holistic therapy at the same time, because there's just 2 different opposing ideologies in your body. Like, do you want to heal it or do you want to suppress it? Which is it? Because you can do one or the other. So you got to start getting your thoughts around that. Like if you're on hypertension meds or cholesterol meds and things, then, okay, how can I start to come down off this and take things that are helpful to my blood so I can recover from this properly and not just be in a continual diseased state, just managing. It also gets rid of heavy metals, which is really interesting. And we are really inundated with metals, not just heavy metals, but light metals, like aluminum is a light metal. And that will bind and remove the metals from the body and help your body not have the same damaging effects as what those metals can cause as they keep recycling around the body, causing tissue damage. So that's super important, especially, so it binds aluminum, mercury, cadmium, arsenic. Arsenic poisoning is so common. These things are very much overlooked by the modern medicine. They don't acknowledge a lot of these things. I had one of my earliest cases when I first started to help people was a cancer. He had end stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. Okay, so he was really bad off, elderly gentleman. And when I interviewed him to ask him about his history, I said, so are you, like, what were your exposures? Because I know certain cancers are related to toxicity and so forth. And I said, what are those? What kinds of things did you do in your lifestyle? And one of the things he said is he would preserve his own wood because he was an architect. Back in the day, they didn't have these safety standards on the wood preservation. So he would dip without gloves his hands in this wood preserver as he was doing all this wood. And he's built so many houses. I went, ooh, like, what's in that? He said, well, arsenic. And I'm like, okay. I said, maybe we should check your arsenic levels. How about that? And we did. And it was off the end of the page. And I did a protocol with him to drain the arsenic, and he healed the cancer completely, complete remission, just by draining the arsenic. That was it. That was the causative agent, right? Wow. So it's I didn't even know about really Dmso back then, or I would have used that, but I used homeopathy to drain it out of him, actually. And then Painkiller, obviously, I mean, that's claim to fame is about pain, nerve block, right? A lot of people know it's a painkiller used in sports medicine. Like, you'll get a footballer getting like tackled, he's hurt, they put him off the sidelines, go see the medic. The medic like will slather that stuff all over him and kick him right back out, get going. So it's been used in sports medicine ever since the beginning. Preserves, it's cryoprotective, so it actually preserves cells. So it's anti-aging, which is awesome. Can't hurt. And then, but how it began was with Stanley Jacob being told that, because he liked to use tissue, he was doing organ transplants and tissue regenerations and things, and he was needing something that would preserve a cell long enough so it could actually go in the refrigerator, freezer, and not rot, but not freeze. Because if you freeze cells, what happens? The ice crystals will break the cell. So you need something that won't let the cell freeze to that level, but still won't damage it, because alcohols will damage it and alter it. So he started playing around with Dmso, and he was amazed. It did not alter the chemistry of the cell whatsoever. The cell was completely intact, as if nothing touched it after use. In fact, better. It was in more sense of integrity. And so he could put them in the freezer with the Dmso bath, and they wouldn't crystallize, and with water. So it was a combination. And so that's how it began for him, was just all about cryopreserving. So it will preserve and stabilize cells, and it's used in organ transplant therapy. Like any organ transplant will have Dmso in it because of that reason.
We could kind of talk about it all night, couldn't we? It's quite a substance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's one of your top substance, I imagine, is it? In your whole, at this point in your career, this is it, Dmso.
Well, when you find something like this, you don't let it go, Mm-hmm. And when I did that one video and then I started developing products and I started talking about them, that's when the publishing agency found me, and they said, would you write us a book on this? So it all just unfolded from there, because I think if you're in integrity and you're in honesty with yourself, and you give with, like, even though I make and sell products, that wasn't what I set out to do. That just happened because people were requesting help, right? And like, how can I help people more? Like, well, they'd say, hey, can you bring in this product, or I really need a good XYZ, and I'd be like, okay, I have access to professional products. I'll look at them, I've been using products like this for 20 something years. So obviously I've tested all kinds of things, and I know what works, what doesn't. So people have a hard time with like the whole supplement industry is so overwhelming. There's so much, like, how do I even fine tune it into what's going to actually be effective? Right. So then I have that with me, and that's very helpful. So I can say, just work on these things. This is what's going to be again and again, your repeater effects, and everything else, whatever doesn't heal after that, we'll take it and we'll look at them piece by piece, and we'll go after that. Right. So if you look at the model of health that way, you get somewhere, you get effects, because that's the whole point. You don't want to just buy stuff, take stuff, waste stuff. You know, I get a lot of people coming at me like that. I don't know. I have a whole closet full. I don't even know what to do, how to take them, whatever. And I just refine that for them. No, these are the ones you're going to start with. This is your first foundational healing. You do that first, right? And then, okay, second level of healing is work with these things, right? So it is a plan for them. So
I want to get to some other, time flies actually, doesn't it, when you're doing these kind of things? So I'm going to let people ask questions in about 15 minutes or so. And then, but I wanted to get to some of the top, just to say about DMSO, how you take it. You said it's very important, the percentage, and you have preparations there that you use for eyes. When you're taking the pure stuff, would you throw it in a glass of orange juice and knock it back? And how much would you take? Would you take 1 teaspoon a day? How would you do that one?
With anything that you're new to, you always start slow and you work up. You always test yourself first, because you don't know. You don't know the level of toxicity that you carry. You might be surprised when it, when it like stimulates you into detox, which can be uncomfortable. So that's why, because DMSO is a detoxing agent, it will increase glutathione of the liver. It will grab metals out of the body, right? It's a very active substance. So you start with a little tester first. Usually I suggest take maybe a couple drops out, mix it with a little bit of distilled water or pure aloe vera, and just do a test patch just on your hand. How do I respond? Do I feel okay? Do I get hives? What happened? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm tolerating it fine. And then from there, just work through a little bit more and get your body sort of adjusted to it. And then you can start working with internal protocols. And even with an internal protocol, the goal is 1 teaspoon in 5 ounces of water or juice. And I mean pure stuff, not tap water, not juice with preservatives in it. Because remember, DMSO will help absorb whatever you put it with. So what do you want to absorb? Sulfites? Do you want to absorb NutraSweet? No, you want to be very specific with what you blend it with. And then try maybe like 1/4 teaspoon first in water. How's that go? Good. I didn't notice anything negative. My stomach feels fine, whatever. And then work up to that 1 teaspoon a day. The only negative thing really with DMSO is the odor it can produce in certain people who are basically off-gassing the breakdown product of DMSO, which is DMS. So that breath, that oyster breath, sometimes it comes out through the skin, and spouses hate you because you stink and don't kiss me, and it can, right? So there are, in my book, I actually wrote a chapter on how to mitigate some of the odor that comes out. And part of it is putting it back toward the DMSO and then MSM, because MSM sulfur can be derived from dimethyl sulfoxide and it doesn't stink. So you can add oxygen into the system to push it the other way. So you can use little spritzes of diluted hydrogen peroxide in the mouth, for example, or you can use what's called chlorine dioxide, which adds oxygen, and you can equally dilute it and so forth. That can help push it the other direction. And then oil of wintergreen seems to also help sort of cover it over. So you can get a natural wintergreen gum or something like that, and that will help.
So don't take it and go to a nightclub. That wouldn't be a good move, Amanda. No, wouldn't be a good move.
Not if you're trying to hook up. No, definitely not.
Not for hooking up. So
No.
that sounds to me like it's the best detoxifier you could possibly take. Better than bentonite clay, better than diatomaceous earth. Would you go as far as to say that? So number one?
Well, I would say there's a few things. One, it's excellent at what it does. It has its limitations. Okay. And the thing that is most potent about it is it wants to have a buddy with it, because it'll do its own job of supporting the tissues and the cells and the anti-inflammatory effects and all the things. But when the real alchemy of Dmso is when you put it with other substances and you allow that synergy to happen, that's profound. So I would say you're going after aluminum, you have a lot in the brain, perhaps, of someone who's vaccine damaged, then you can blend it with the diatomaceous earth. You can be taking diatomaceous earth and Dmso at the same time, or the clays that do help to bind metals, because Dmso will give those clays access to through the blood-brain barrier. So in our brain, we have like a barrier, and it says, no, like certain things can't go there because we have to protect the brain in a certain way. And Dmso is rare in the fact that it actually allows substances to cross the blood-brain barrier. So you can actually get access to detoxing the brain itself, which is again, something very unique about it.
Wow.
And so I would say not to discount some of those things, to still use them in your repertoire, because they're all a little bit different, but they blend well together. But as a whole, like if you could only get one substance, if you're going to a deserted island and you could only bring one substance, it would be that. It would be Dmso for sure.
And while I have you there, tell me your next top 4. Like let's go with a top 5. Dmso, your number 1. Quick fire me your next top 4.
Well, my next one for sure is topical magnesium, hands down. It's one you should be using every day, twice a day if you can. Topical is the best because it's a transdermal, and it's completely absorbed through the skin, and it's not well absorbed through the gut by most people. And even if you have a perfect gut and you're a great digester, you'll probably only get 30% of that you've ingested. And you can't get the high doses that you need in this world that is chronically magnesium deficient. It is a molecule for over 900 enzymatic reactions in the body. It is a catalyst. So what a catalyst does is it increases the rate of a process in the body. So say you have a chemical reaction, moving along, right? And it's going at a pace. But when you put magnesium in the mix, it can happen very quickly. So it accelerates that speed of that biochemical reaction. So you're detoxing only so slow until you get magnesium in the mix, and all of a sudden your detoxing is moving along, right? And it can prevent stalling of that, which is terrible, because if you've ever detoxed heavily, you don't feel great. And it's something that you should always be using, especially to support your liver and all of the different routes of detox. So topical magnesium for sure is my number 2.
That's a brilliant tip. And any particular, you supply it, don't you? You supply magnesium.
I make it. Yeah, I make it and supply it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to get some from you. So what's next?
So next I would say would be, there's so many, but I'm going to say chlorine dioxide solution, MMS. That's my 3rd. The reason being, it's again one of those ones that does so many things in the body. It gets rid of parasites. It helps heal tissue. It's a great you can use for first aid. If you feel like you need aid in detoxing, it will do that. If you feel like scratchy throat, cold flus, that kind of stuff, you can use it for that. You can just elevate yourself using it so that you're stronger and you can overcome the detox process. Usually I suggest starting with 1 or 2 activated drops in a full glass of water, like 8 ounces of water. Drink that once a day, work up to that to be 3 times a day, and then work up to that as 5 drops 3 times a day as a general protocol. But there are lots and lots of protocols. Once you get into that world, the sky's the limit. I had this most beautiful protocol system of MMS with Dmso in my book, because actually a lot of people find out about Dmso because of MMS, because they're clearing up Lyme, like you were mentioning Lyme in our preamble before, right? Lyme, people who have Lyme go toward MMS because it's one of their most potent cures. And as well, autism, it's huge in the autism community as well. So adding Dmso into your MMS mixture stabilizes it so the absorption is best. And that is very popular And then, so then you go, oh, what's DMSO? And then they start learning. So that happens. So that would be my third.
Yeah, it sounds like as well, all these substances are keeping the body clean as we go along. They're cleaning as we go, because we're constantly exposed to toxins. So I'm just wondering, is that like colonics and that kind of thing? Do you go along with that, or do you say, no, these substances are on a daily basis much more effective than going that extreme? Or what's your view on colonics?
Oh, I'm extreme.
Okay, yeah. But you know what I mean? That those.
So I'll go as fringe as it can get. But what I'm saying, colonics, however, they have their place. Don't get me wrong, especially if you have somebody with biofilms. So biofilms are, from long-standing disease and certain situations in the colon and places where bacterial colonies have created these slick, sort of greasy homes for themselves. They're very hard to dissolve. You have to use like a lot of like lemon juice and a lot of enzymes to really deal with that. And colonics can be appropriate for that. They're very invasive, and you have to put vitamins and minerals back into the system when you do that. So that's only by direction of a practitioner that says, yes, I think you're warranted for that, or you've already experienced it and you know what it does for you. Enemas, on the other hand, I always recommend everyone should be doing enemas. Everyone. It should be like taught in schools. Here's how you run yourself an enema, because that's just your sigmoid colon and a little bit of your descending colon that's involved in that. It's not very invasive, but it gets to your liver. It helps your portal. So there's a vein basically that goes from your liver to your colon that has to constantly detox you because you have stool, right? You make stool, it sits until you have a bowel movement. Some people doesn't get moved out hardly at all, which is terrible because you're just absorbing your own toxins, and your liver is the main organ responsible for making sure you don't poison yourself, autotoxicity, right? So there's toxins from the outside, and then there's your own. And the more you can clean that and make sure you're regular, and make sure that large intestinal integrity, the membrane integrity is optimal, you will feel so much better all the time. You have more energy, you will have better sleeps, you will prevent a lot of disease states. There's 1,000,001 different enemas you can do, from my favorite, which is coffee enema, which is a liver detox, to wheatgrass implants, to salt enemas, to just simple distilled water enemas. You can even do it every morning. The Indians do that as a hygiene practice. Right? So enemas, yes.
Yes, colonics. Okay, but I interrupted you there. So go on with your next two. Yeah.
Okay, so definitely my number 4 would be, well, they're all number 1. Okay, and it's not limited. But colloidal silver for sure. Colloidal silver, first of all, can stop strep throat completely. It's a cure, literally a cure for it. I suffered from strep throat through most of my growing up because I was mistreated by the medical establishment, which is one of the formative things that happened in my life, right? So when you're abused by a system, you start to wake up to the corruptness and that it's not working, and that it only hurt you, and it set you up for pain syndromes, and it set you up for disease, and it killed all your grandparents. When all that happens, you go, yeah, maybe I should look into another side of medicine. So it was very formative, but I found colloidal silver probably through my friend Bruce McBurney, who's now left this earth. I found him when I went to a big convention in Toronto, and he was walking around literally handing out bottles of colloidal silver, like 500 ml bottles for free. And I'm like, who's this crazy man? And he's like, and he had his spiel, and he had a little card, and he was quite an amazing man. And he was an inventor, and he was pretty cool. And he said, I'll give you a first one for free because I know that after you're going to want it again. That's how confident I am at how potent this is for your health, right? So after that, I started learning about it. And that was before naturopathic college. And then I make it now here. I make it myself. And it's not actually that hard to make. You can even buy a generator yourself, make it at home. So it just costs pennies. So it's one of those ones that's also very affordable. You just need distilled water and your silver electrical, device to make it. And you can use it preventatively. So you take 1 ounce a day preventatively. But if you start to feel unwell, then you double that generally for an adult. And everything's always halved for a child. So I give it to my child if she says, I feel a little bit stuffy in the nose, or my throat's scratchy today, or, I'm not feeling that, I'm feeling a little off, or my stomach hurts or something. If she's, it's just that little blip, and then she takes in, that's it. It goes away. So it's antimicrobial, but the main things that it does is it supports your white blood cell count. So Dmso also does that, but it makes the white blood cells function better. And it adds a certain type of electricity into the system. And when you have the right electricity, which a lot of practitioners, a lot of people, even holistic practitioners, forget that we're also electrical beings, is very important. And even most cancer has an electrical aspect to it, that if it's overlooked, it might not heal. And so that silver, that particle, allows better cell-to-cell communication over the entire system. And so you're getting better communication, essentially. So those two things are really important. All the other antimicrobial and blah, 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 that's bonus in my case, in my estimation.
These are it's great to be reminded of all of these. I use them all, except I'm only starting on the Dmso. And I've got a guy here in Ireland who has some MMS. He's got a big stash of it. So I'm going to start taking that one. What's your number 5 then, before we go to questions?
That's a hard one because there's a lot of things vying for that spot. But I will say vitamin C. I will, because we are rampantly deficient in it. Ridiculous for a modern culture, for this day and age, to be borderline scurvy is insane. It really is pathetic. It shows you how negligent and discordant the medical establishment is, that we have let ourselves get to such levels of deficiencies in our cells. Vitamin C does everything. Like I could never tell you in a moment all the things that it does in the body. But cell integrity, reactive oxidant species, it's meaning it prevents cancers, free radicals from forming, these kinds of things, which Dmso incidentally also does. Those two together are very potent anti-cancer treatment as well. It's in my book, that formulation with vitamin C working with Dmso. Fantastic.
And Amanda, would you go liposomal for vitamin C, or does it matter?
What's weird is I haven't had the best success with liposomal, actually. I've actually, because I like to use high doses and buffered. So buffered means like sodium ascorbate or magnesium ascorbate. So an ascorbate that has so it's not so acidic. And then it must always have an antioxidant action with it. So either a acai berry or something else that has antioxidants, because vitamin C is not just ascorbic acid. It's a whole picture of molecules together. So you want a good one that will be buffered, but also have those stabilizers, because if you do high doses, it actually is a pro-oxidant in the liver, and you want to have antioxidants ready to sequester those when it's created. And that's also why Dmso works great. And you can get away with this using ascorbic acid with Dmso, because it will buffer the negative effects, if you will, of creating these free radicals from high dosing. So it's just such a versatile substance. It's incredible. But with the liposomal, so I have a lot of people with hypertension issues, right? And I notice that when I give them a true buffered, even if it's a sodium, so you usually say no sodium hypertension, but even if it's a sodium ascorbate, they don't get a spike in their high, and we're talking 5 grams twice a day. They don't get a spike in their blood pressure. Well, I had an experiment where somebody used a liposomal buffered, and their blood pressure went crazy. Because if you understand the molecules, the way that they cleave, the way the body uses them and cuts them and chops them up and so forth, that'll change. So if you have one molecule versus another, the way it's cleaved can be completely different and so what it does, the liposomals, actually makes the sodium bioavailable. And in the just plain buffered, it's not. and it's not, does not affect the blood pressure, and it's just either used intracellularly properly as and through the gates, through channel gates in the cells, or it's removed. That's it. So I stopped using it because of that, because I have so many hypertensive clients. So it just wasn't practical for me. So that's pretty much the top 5. I have 18 million other.
That's a great top 5. So let's, anybody wants to ask questions, I'm going to ask you guys if you want to type them in the chat bar there. And we can ask Amanda some of your questions. Do you see anything there in the chat bar?
I see one. Fasting or juice fasting for general detoxing and for detoxing heavy metals. I love fasting. Yes, fasting. Just juice fasting, just water fasting, intermittent fasting, whatever works for your body type. I have a friend who she basically fasts, right before her cycle, because she has really tough menstrual cycles. And she fasts for 3 full days before her cycle, and she hardly gets symptoms. And so because it's about, in her case, it's about inflammation, and a lot of the foods are giving her body inflammation. So if she can control the inflammation by fasting, then she doesn't have the same upheaval of her body that's now going to be doing a new task. So there's another task, right? While the body's in inflammation, that can cause all kinds of pain problems. I generally do intermittent fasting most of the time, which means I'm eating only foods only out of a 6-hour window in the day. So I'm not eating foods outside of that window. Everything else, I'll be drinking some liquids, staying hydrated, maybe doing some herbal teas, whatever, but I'm not eating food so I can rest my digestive organs. So it's really about resting. Are you resting the organs? And if you're doing juicing, it should be done in the resting of organs, which means you double filter your juices. Then it's not really true juice fasting, because you'll still have some pulp and bits, and your digestive organs will still be working. So the whole idea is to have osmosis of juice, right? So it's actually your cells are just pulling them through into the bloodstream and off they go, rather than this whole digestive process. So yes, I recommend like a full juice fast at least once a year. Twice a year is ideal, but do intermittent fasting quite often if you can. And just be careful not to take the fasting too far, because you don't want to go into deficiencies as well, right? So, some people fast for 7 days and things. And,
Sorry,
go ahead.
Regarding heavy metals, I have a client with high lead and mercury and a lot of GI problems. Not doing that well on protocol of, okay, that's a tricky word, porphyrin. And you see that question as well. Do you liquids?
It popped up and then it went away. So
yeah, she wants to know how much DMSO should she start with this client who has high lead and mercury and a lot of GI problems. How much DMSO to start with?
Well, I'm hoping that you've worked with the terrain and like getting the diet right and all those things, and they're not poisoning themselves. And like that's usually where you start, kind of clean up their lifestyle before you really get into heavy detoxing. Make sure the magnesium's happening. Topical magnesium, if you're detoxing, you got to have it. So that's a must. I would do probably between a 60-70% DMSO topically over the liver area. So it'll go and it'll absorb that way. I would also ingest the 1 teaspoon, in 5 ounces of water juice, the general protocol daily. But I would either employ MMS as well to detox those metals, excellent metal detoxer, in a combo. So you can activate the MMS, a few drops of DMSO, do those protocols, go slow, obviously, and research that. And then, of course, high-dose vitamin C gets rid of metals. So you can do that as well. And you can target them by using homeopathics. So you can get homeopathic lead, plumbum. You can get homeopathic mercury, mercurius. You can get homeopathic arsenic, homeopathics. And you can actually drain those metals out using, basically it's called isopathy in a sense. So you're using same to get rid of same, sort of. And if you do it incrementally, so you start with the lower doses and you work up. So you'll start with, say, a 6 CH, and then you work up to 12 CH and 30 and so forth. And you do it incrementally. And it's fantastic for draining metals. And you can test it as you go along if you want. Like if they're doing hair tests or if they're doing blood tests or whatever, challenge tests, you can test it and you can see how it just corrects every time. But you obviously have to know a little bit of homeopathy and stuff to do that, but it's there for us. And then I would use you know, a bentonite, zeolite clay as well in there as well. Just make sure it does not constipate them. That's the only thing about using a lot of the clays or activated charcoal, you know, those things which you can use. You have to go intermittent because you don't want to dehydrate them and you don't want to get them constipated. And of course, enemas. You know, if they'll do enemas, then they've got their health happening, right? Like I always convince them over time. Yeah, did you try the enema yet? You know, like, and once they do that, like, wow.
Okay, so Louise is really happy with that answer. Yeah, she has a great homeopath to work with. That's great, and he would do the enema. Okay, brilliant. Anyone
Awesome.
that's got a question there in the meantime? Oh, Donald has one there. Topical magnesium, should it be in oil?
Should it be in oil? Okay, so topical magnesium is called magnesium oil. It's called that, but it's not an oil. It just feels oily. So when you put it on, the sensation of it feels kind of slippery. So that's why they call it magnesium oil, but it's not an oil at all. So it's just a liquid, and that's the one you want to use. And I make one with a little bit of aloe in it because being transdermal, like you're going to get a sensation on the skin, a little bit of itchiness, tingleness, right? Because it's opening and going in. So you're going to feel that. But what's interesting is women tend to feel the magnesium oil or spray more than men because we have more estrogen receptors and it seems to affect the estrogen receptors more. So you actually feel the itchiness more. And what else is interesting is it seems to temper that over time. So the more you use the magnesium oil, the less you get itchy over time. So it must down-regulate some of those receptors, which is fascinating. And I'd love to see studies on some of this stuff. If I lived in where we're headed, I know you said, Paul, where we're headed in the future, you know, in my world, where we're headed this is the type of research we're doing. You know, this is the type of things we're looking at. Oh, wonder why, you know, we're seeing clinically people report that they have less itchy. Let's run a study and see why, you know, that kind of stuff. So
we'll get there. We're going to get there. I wanted to ask you now, I have a little chance to nip in, so I'll ask you about Rife. So I have never tried them. What's the deal with Rife? I hear amazing things.
Well, now we're talking frequency healing, right? Mm-hmm. We're talking about like I said earlier, we're electrical beings and we have to apply that knowledge somewhere because we're not just flesh and bone and like, what are we? You know, when you break it down, what are we? Well, at the base of it, we're these molecules that are always shaking and moving. There's energy there. There's electricity there, right? Our brains are electricity. Our nervous system is electricity. All the cell communication is electrical, right? So now you understand all things produce a frequency, everything. And Hula Clark and others and Rife and all of these greats, they've set the stage for us because they've mapped and recorded all the frequencies. Like, you know, your Lyme agents will have a frequency. Your individual body has a whole frequency, and the components will have different frequencies. Organs will have different frequencies. Everything, it has a readable, measurable frequency. Okay, and you can now, when you need to heal something using frequency, there's a few ways you can go about that. So you can either map your frequency and find the frequency that's close enough and boost it. So you can use a Rife-based frequency to amplify, to add the same of more of you. So you can become sort of stronger and overcome whatever you're dealing with, right? And I like that approach a lot. I use that approach. I have my own Rife machine. I have other gadgets that will do that. Will kind of boost you. So whatever it is you're dealing with, it's giving more energy into the system to combat and deal with it and come back to homeostasis. Okay. Or you can target things and nullify them. So you have a tumor, you have a parasite, whatever. They're all mapped. So you get those frequency maps, and you do this is the waveform of, you know, a roundworm, like that. So what you do is you match the opposite and equal frequency to that. So then you pummel in this, but it's flipped. So one's going this way and one's going that way. And you nullify it that way, right? So you're using frequencies to erase something. And that's part of what's going on with using Rife frequencies, basically. And you can send them at a distance. You can send frequencies at a distance using a piece of your own DNA. And if you understand what that means, it's quite profound, because what it means is there's really no space and no time. We have extreme amounts of resonance to our DNA. If you affect your piece of DNA and it's halfway, if you're in Ireland, I'm in Canada, but I have a little piece of your fingernail, and I can send a frequency to the DNA in your fingernail, and you feel it over in Ireland, what's that saying about space and time? What's that saying about resonance and how interconnected we are to that material within us, right? It's quite a profound awakening when you start to realize that level of our existence. Right?
Amazing, yeah. And just on the, I'm going to go to, we have a question from Hoi Choi Kim there, but before we do that, Rife, if you're working with someone on Rife, you take my reading, the machine takes my reading and tells you what's going on for me. Is that how it works? And then you send healing frequencies kind of to me based on that? Is that how it works?
If I do have a client in person, I can do a biofeedback reading on them. So it's like I'm pinging them, sure, and I can get that reading, and then I can send frequencies specifically, yes, to them, or I can ping different organs and find, and then it's tricky because you have to be trained enough to go, okay, well, here are the frequencies pinging back from that organ. I'm seeing all kinds of things, and it can be so sensitive. You basically have every disease, right, to all the way whittled down enough so that you can see what's really going on. So it's quite an art as well for the, doing it that way. And how I usually like to work is just with the DNA and sending frequencies to that individual for what they're dealing with. So if they're dealing with heart disease, sleep problems, whatever it is, I will give them frequencies that support that, whatever they're going through. Or I will give them, they even have frequencies of stuff like essential oils, frequencies of homeopathics. You can send the frequencies into water and drink them, or you can send the frequencies directly to the individual. And what's almost troubling, well, it is troubling, is that what I'm finding now is the way that a lot of, even when I do distance Reiki, I feel like there's extra barrier that I have to constantly work through nowadays, because they're messing around with so much of our ether that even the way people heal. I remember when I first started, and I started to give them the remedies, it was very rapid and I could predict how it would go. And now it almost feels like the healing is slower than before. It takes longer than before. And I think there's something more going on. So even when I send the frequencies, there's a push through that has to happen, it seems, in some sort of disturbance.
Sure.
So I've been watching that in the last little while.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Let's go to this one on the vitamin C. So is it true animals produce vitamin C, but not humans? Somehow humans lost this ability. Is it true? What would be the cause of humans losing that ability?
Yeah, that's interesting. And the other animal that doesn't make it is the guinea pig. I know that because I was going to be obviously a vet, so I worked with all kinds of animals. So you always had to supplement guinea pigs with vitamin C. I think we lost the enzyme. We lost the enzyme. We either evolved away from it for some reason. Mm-hmm. We've been toyed with, our genetics has been toyed with a lot. When you keep experimenting with the masses by injecting them with poisons, over generations, you actually damage the DNA. And so maybe we lost a fragment of DNA due to chronic damage, and it happened to have that enzyme system, on that piece, because pieces of DNA will have multiple different functions on one piece, right? Sometimes there's redundancy as well, but it could have just been lost with some kind of change, some kind of damage, or we've adapted something that it was better to have one adaptation and sacrifice that other one. It's hard to know the answer to that, really, but all we can do is speculate as to why. But no, we don't really make it. We definitely don't have that system, and most animals do, except not the guinea pig.
The guinea pig. Anybody else got a question there for Amanda?
I saw Alzheimer's brain something. Missed that though.
Brain detoxing possible.
Okay, well, with Alzheimer's, okay, we got to think blood, because I see this every day of my life, okay? One of our elders has been mistreated by the medical establishment, put on all kinds of drugs. The drugs have affected the blood coagulability and the blood traveling, and have then damaged the flow to the brain. When you don't get blood flow to the brain, you get dementia and Alzheimer's. When you compound that by the fact that certain metals get shuffled off into tissue that's inflamed. So here's the picture. You don't have a brain that's being fed and nourished. What happens? The tissue's in dysfunction. Well, what happens there? The body uses dysfunctional tissue as storage for other toxins, because it assumes that it's already trashed. So it's like, when you clean your house and you sweep it into one pile, the body does that. You'll always see people who have like injuries or old damage or old scar tissue, and then they start to get arthritis and stuff in that area. It's just because it's a good repository for the trash. And if you start to detox and clean up the joint and the tissue and get that, take the pile and sweep it into the little dustpan and throw it out, and then fix the floor underneath, right? That's really what you do for repair. Now, the tragedy is that these people are continually medicated into dementia states. And that's the first thing I do for anyone with any type presenting in any of those ways. You get them off those medications, terrible. And then you start to feed them things that will support their brain. Often I also see extreme B12 deficiencies in our elders. Any elder that comes in and there's got the little tremor, the little shake, that's like a hallmark B12 deficiency. I had a radical cure of a woman. Actually, I helped her with her son who had severe schizophrenia. And she came in to me to talk about her son, but I noticed she had this tremor. I said, I would like you to walk out with some B12 or go pick up some B12. I don't even think I had a store back then. And she did immediately. And she came back, I think the next week, and she said, I can sleep. I don't have all these problems. My bowels, everything just cleared up. And I said, just from that one deficiency, just because I saw that shake, that's it. And how many doctors have their patients sitting there bloody well shaking like that? And they don't even tell them. It's a shame, really. So they've left our elders to suffer without this knowledge. And they've just make sure that they get them on as many drugs as they possibly can that they go out with, rather than let them enjoy their retirement and come into their real maturation as a wise man or woman to help humanity with what they've lived through. Instead they take it away from them. They take their mind away from them. It's just ridiculous. It never has to happen. It really doesn't.
That's great. Anne-Marie is asking, what's your recommendation protecting from 5G EMF? You've said the Dmso. Is there anything else you can add to that one?
Probably tarring and feathering the politicians. That's my main cure. I would say colloidal silver blocks a lot of the stuff. So using it in general would be a good idea. Wearing copper blocks a lot of it as well. I have copper bracelets on my website. My website is yumnaturals.com. And it'll take you through to the site, because that's going to be the new website. And obviously anything that's antioxidant, high dose, the things we've already talked about, high dose vitamin C, MMS, colloidal silver, like all of the big kahunas you want to take, magnesium, right? All of those, because the more that what this does is it damages our blood and our clotting mechanisms, so our oxygen is not carried properly. So people what we're seeing are new diseases based on all this increasing background radiation damaging the ether. It doesn't even matter if you have 5G local, it's damaging our world. Like, we're all going to be affected at one, to just varying levels depending on your weaknesses and susceptibilities. And this new disease we're seeing is that damage. It's a coagulation disease of the lungs. It's not even a cold or a flu. They're just lumping those numbers in to pad the numbers. What's really happening to these people who truly are sick and looks different than other illnesses is they're presenting as if they have radiation damage, which they do. And that's affecting their blood and their coagulation systems, and it's settling in the lung tissue, because the lung is where you get the oxygen. And all on autopsies of these people, that's what it's presenting. That's exactly how it's presenting. And then they kill them by putting them on ventilators. That's how you killed these people, because they can't carry the oxygen. You can't just force them to take oxygen that they don't have the capacity to do. You just drown them. And that's exactly what's happening. And our elders are dying at a rapid rate from that. They're not adapting. We need to make enzyme systems to adapt to new technologies. We need a lag time. You can't just bombard people and expect everybody to thrive from something brand new. You need time to generate these enzyme systems to work as a workaround, to survive a new challenge in life. Our bodies are brilliant, and we'll always find workarounds. We'll always try to adapt to some stressor. But if you don't give it time and you're already weak, that's it, game over. So all the things I mentioned, your colloidal silver, exercising, don't wear a mask. Oh my gosh. Like, that's worse. That makes it all worse, because you're rebreathing your own toxins. What's breath? What's the out breath? Getting rid of your waste. You got to get rid of your waste. This is what we're talking about here. And then, you're hyperventilating, you're giving acidosis of the lung. Yeah. You're causing inflammation of the lung, and then you're actually causing lung disease. Those masks literally cause lung disease. It's absolutely bonkers. What I watch out there in the world is it's like the Twilight Zone music going off all the time in my head. Okay. Like, it's the opposite of health. It's like everything. It's just flip it upside down and you've got closer to the right answer, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, I could go on about that.
So we're coming close to time. So before we go, I really want to get a sense, Amanda, of where you see us going. Set out a stall for us of how healthcare can look, how the most optimum vision of healthcare that you can generate right now.
Well, we are coming into the most incredible time we'll ever see, because we're going through a 3D transition to a 5D transition, which has been spoken about for ages, which many of us have prepared for a long time. And it's exciting. It's messy. It's messy, and it's hard. It's hard work, but that's where we're headed. And in a 5D consciousness, the way in which we communicate, when we realize our interconnectedness, right? Like what I said about Rife, right there. Look how interconnected that is. You're connected to the part of you that you thought you gave away to somebody else. Okay. Can you imagine what we are really? Which I think is the whole plan, is to keep us away from our divinity, the truth of ourselves and who we are. And when we realize that, which we are, and we will, and they can't stop it, they're going to try to stop it, but they can't, because you can't stop what's happening. And when we realize that, we're going to get into a new medicine world where we listen to ourselves as individuals, and we apply the methods and the remedies that are appropriate to what our soul calling and our inner truth dictates, which will be completely different for every different person. The soul dictate could be, I have to go to Peru and sit at a certain location and breathe that air and I will heal. Could be that. Could be, yes, I need to go to Amanda's new hydrotherapy wing of her wonderful, beautiful clinic and have all of this different hot water treatment therapy for my body to live in itself. It could be that, This would be a world where we walk outside into our yards, which, are all linked to other people's beautiful gardens. And we know the medicine we know the medicine that grows up out of the ground is for us. If you've ever read the Ringing Cedars of Russia series.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that vision of like the domains and of everyone owning their own land, like not borrowed from the crown. I mean, your own, it's yours. And that you soak the seeds that you're going to plant in your mouth, and you sit with that vibrationally to ask your body to make those plants be perfect for you, for your medicine. And you hold the seeds up to the stars, and you bless the seeds, and you honor that life that's about to spring forward for your benefit, right? That's the divinity we need to get into. We're coming back full circle almost into a sense of ritual, but not the ritual, not the dark ritual, the ritual of honoring what we are, right? The ritual of taking time in our day. So we're not 9 to 5, we're not in traffic, we're not, that's over. This is, you step outside, there's not even cars, we don't even need cars. We won't even need half the things that we think we need. I don't even think we're gonna live in square anything. We're either gonna grow our own crystals to live in, or we're gonna understand the sacredness of either living in a pyramid, living in a round hut, something that vibrates back to us in health, rather than all these corners and edges with arrows and, hidey spots of energy. If you study Feng Shui and you understand the flow of energy in your house.
When you mentioned crystals there's a lot of talk about fifth dimensional consciousness, that we become a crystalline structure. Have you heard that one?
Yeah, there's a talk that we move from carbon-based to silica-based and so forth, and that very well may be true. Maybe I've been working, when I do Reiki, I always activate extra DNA, because apparently we have junk DNA. Sure, we do. Nothing in our body is junk and nothing in our body is waste. Everything was designed. So that might be what happens, is it activates and it turns on our other layers of ourselves. I think that's part of this whole thing, and lets us see. It's the inner eye, the outer eye, the inner ear, the outer ear, the inner taste, the outer taste. All the senses become double, right? And that's almost the definition of fifth dimension, because, right? So 3-dimension, we're only seeing three directions, essentially. Fourth dimension is considered emotional. So we have a lot of mess there to clean up. But fifth dimension is when you have, how I define it, because it's sort of abstract, you know what I mean? But fifth dimension is another layer of seeing, another layer of experiencing life that you didn't have before. So like when people take mushrooms or people have psychedelic experiences, they get a crack at that. They get to see through a little bit of that veil, what our potential is, right? And so that's where I think we're trying to burst out of our cocoon right now. And, that's hard, to do that.
What do you get a sense of the time frame on that? What do you feel? Do you feel the next couple of years are going to be a bit tricky and then it's going to settle in, or do you feel it's longer? Where do you go with that?
Well, we're in the quickening, it's called, right? So the quickening is accelerated time. So I think it's actually going to happen pretty suddenly, pretty rapidly, more than what we thought, because it was interesting I remember back 2000s and all the way to 2012. And we were predicting a lot of things around 2012, which did happen on an energy level, but didn't happen on a physical level. So I was very prepared for whatever was coming then, but I realized it was inner work. 2012 was mainly all about shifting on the subtle realm. Now we're getting into the overt. We're getting into the seeing it play out, okay? Like translate. And I have a friend, and he had very profound seer type experiences, and his prediction I feel is close to correct from my own intuition. He says 6 years, about 6 years is going to take for the cabal to fall, for the mess to be cleaned up from this war, because we're in a war. If you want to read a book, Quiet Weapons for Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars, I believe it is. I always make up the silence and the quiet, but that's an important book, because that's what we're living.
Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. Okay.
That's it. So Quiet Weapons for Silent Wars, or Silent Weapons for Quiet. Dyslexia is a good trait to have. I do have a little bit of it. And they do say that those of us who have dyslexia, we use a different part of our brain. So it helps me be more of my intuition and my seer, I can scan bodies and see inside bodies easier. And I think it was because I think I sacrificed one part of my brain for another. And I think that's what dyslexia is. But yeah, I think 6 years or so, because it's quick now, it's short. Look how fast the agendas are working. They're like a fury.
Yeah.
Come on, let's get them all locked down as fast as we can, right? Because they're losing ground and they're losing time. So I'm hopeful. I think we just have to plan be more conscious and work on ourselves and work on the frequency raising as much as we can, because that's our true protection. You don't have to be afraid of that stuff. They want you afraid. They want you in fear states because they feed on that loosh. They yum, 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 yum. Don't feed them anymore. Stop feeding it completely. Do your visioning, plant your gardens, dream up how you would live differently than what is. This is crumbling, this is done. So how would you live? Well, obviously you have to have your connections, your friends, your people who connect with you, the people who are going to collaborate with you on things, and all of the different aspects of life that you wouldn't depend on now. So what if technology becomes crystalline? It very well can be. You know, our systems of communication can be crystalline, right? Because that crystalline or crystallized water, we haven't even explored water. I'm actually going to do an entire video just on water.
We'll come back another time and we'll do one on that. I remember actually I interviewed Masaru Emoto about 8 years ago. He actually came to Ireland and did a little tour around here. You remember his work? He did.
I met him.
Yeah, amazing stuff. But thank you for that vision, because that's beautiful and that kind of inspires people, you know. And I feel like it's just like there's an indifference coming in, like with the whole story we have running about the virus. It's like I feel like we're not giving it our attention. There's no need to give it any more attention because it thrives, as you said, on attention. So you take your attention back, you focus on your garden, you focus on your own energy, you raise your frequency, you become this sovereign being, and that's what we're moving towards, you know, and you put that so beautifully there. Thank you so much for doing that. We're just going to do a short little finish. So I'm going to ask you all to thank Amandha Vollmer. Do a little thumbs up if you want. That's an amazing, you're such a wealth of knowledge. My gosh. It's like, you haven't even touched it, I can imagine. So we'll definitely have you back another time. And if you want to get in touch with Amandha, I put the website here. It's yumnaturals.com. She has a book on Dmso. Somebody wanted to find out more about that. I'm going to get the book as well. So you can order everything from her website. She has amazing products there. Anything, Amandha, you want to say to people? Mention any events or anything coming up? Or
well, I do have a few interviews and stuff, but really I think the best thing is to if you want to connect with me, follow my YouTube channel. I'm also on BitChute as Dr._Yummy. And I will have a teaching website coming. So I have 3 main websites. It's obviously the yumnaturals.com. I have healingwithdmso.com if you just want to order the book only. And then I have the next one coming, which is yummy.doctor. And that one is all the teaching website. So it's all my blog, all my videos will be there, my own platforms for education, upcoming lectures, talks, whatever will be there. And then I'll be moving into more teaching, because that's where my passion is. And that's what I think we need, because like what I feel I'm here to do is help you become your own doctor and help you become your own sovereign. So I want to design that in a way, and I want to take you through it, like almost like take you through the knowledge that you should have already had going through schools, you know, the stuff you should have come through with, and catch you up to that. So there'll be stages, and then get you confident in using some of these remedies, and I'll do different ones. Like if you're more passionate about botanicals, if you're more passionate about homeopathics, if you're more passionate about different supplements, if you're more passionate about making medicine, whatever, I'll have different avenues for that. So that's pretty exciting. So that's what we're working towards.
And you got to come have you been to Ireland? Have you ever been over here?
This is what's crazy, is that when I was a child, I had a shoebox in my closet where I'd saved my allowance, and it was called Ireland Trip. And I have still yet to be to Ireland. It's insanity, because I always felt called to Ireland. And I didn't know why. I didn't understand it, of course, but I always the music, the culture, every bit about Ireland was always something I loved. And when I was an adult, I went to 2 different mediums. I went to one medium in New York. They have a spiritualist community out there. And then I went to another medium in Toronto, different events, different time frames, span of time in between. And they both told me the majority of my past lives were in Ireland. I was always either midwife, naturopath, witch, holistic practitioner, whatever, of some sort, whether I was male, female, didn't matter. over and over again, but most of my lifetimes were either Ireland, Wales, Scotland, or a few of them there. And so it makes sense. So I always had this thing, if I ever go to Ireland, I might not come back.
Well, if you come here, we'd love to have you, and maybe we'll do an event sometime.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah, we'll do a live event when we can again. So thanks again, Amanda. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We're just going to do a short goodbye. I'm going to invite you all to close your eyes again, drop into your heart center. And I'm going to ask you to tune into that vision that Amanda presented of us connecting to ourselves, connecting to our own power, knowing our own sovereignty, and being so in tune with our own bodies and our own health that we become sovereign beings in that sense. And just tune into that vision of our new reality. And feel that sensation in your heart center, and feel a little light go on in your heart center. Feel the energy of appreciation in your heart center for that feeling. And now send that feeling out to the world. See it go like a ripple of light out to the world. And now come back to your heart center. Feel yourself grounded. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel the roots gone into the earth. Open your eyes. Look at the genius that is Amandha Vollmer. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Take care. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.